This is 20 Minutes Live. Welcome to all of you from India and around the world. I am Neeraj Karpe, partner at 100x.vc. Today on 20 Minutes Live, we have Neeraj Roy. Neeraj Roy is the founder and CEO of Hungama Digital Media, India's leading digital entertainment company. He has been at the forefront of the internet revolution and has played a pivotal role in shaping the country's digital entertainment landscape. Neeraj founded Hungama way back in 1999. That was a time when the internet ecosystem in India was still taking shape. And since then, he has led Hungama to become one of the largest media entertainment companies in South Asia. Under his leadership, Hungama has 70 million consumers across Hungama Music, Hungama Play, and Hungama Games. Neeraj has been voted amongst the top 50 people in mobile entertainment globally and amongst top 10 mobile thinkers. Driven by innovation, Neeraj has enabled over $2 billion of revenue of digital media revenues over the past 15 years across 70 countries, serving nearly 1 billion consumers. Wow, isn't that an amazing profile? Our format is simple, unique, and crisp. Neeraj will speak for 10 minutes, and after that, we'll have a round of Q&A for 10 minutes. If you want to ask a question, please post it in the box on your screen, and I will take it up after Neeraj has spoken for 10 minutes. Over to you, Neeraj, for 10 minutes of what next for the digital entertainment.
Hi, good evening, Neeraj, and thank you very much for that very generous introduction. For the benefit of your viewers and audience, I thought we'll talk about digital media and entertainment as it exists today, as it would probably be, say, the next 2 to 3 years, to a certain extent, driven by the kind of changes that we are witnessing across humanity on the back of the COVID pandemic. And then we'll try and take a little sneak peek over the next 5 years of what digital media and entertainment will probably look like. I'll try and share some numbers and wherever possible, give you some examples as well so that, this session is interesting, and then look forward to the questions thereafter. So, Neeraj, whilst you mentioned, our journey as a company with a little bit of a dinosaur in the internet world, as it were, but it's been 15 years since we started our digital media entertainment side of the business. Neeraj, in the last 3 years, the amount of growth opportunity that we have witnessed on account of the digital revolution that happened in India is probably more significant than what we saw 10 years back. And what we are likely to witness the next 4 to 5 years will probably be 5 to 10x of where we are. So this is really just setting the context for you. So to me, whenever I want to talk about this, I want to sort of just simplify this. That it's really two key things which are driving digital media and entertainment. And those two things are, one is device and the other is connectivity. Devices, the biggest of those, which have been catalysts for this growth has been obviously the mobile phone, predominantly the smartphones. But in recent times, we are seeing smart TVs, we are seeing obviously a proliferation across tablets, PCs, and over a period of time, there will be an array of devices because you are likely to find video experiences in your refrigerator, in your microwave, and with always-on connectivity, there's going to be a very, very big driver. The second aspect is really connectivity. For this, I need to go back 4 years. You remember, not too long ago, India had about 300 million or so internet consumers who were on an average consuming between 900 MB to a gig of data at an average price point of about 250 rupees for a gig of data. In a matter of about 18 to 24 months, we saw that data prices had fallen to as little as 125 rupees, for which you got as much as 30 gigs of data. And your average consumption went from a gig of data to almost 15 gigs of data. And the biggest beneficiary in this process was really digital media and entertainment, because the average need of doing social networking platforms, doing digital payments, doing e-commerce, doing, taxi, cab hailing. Features like that wouldn't take more than 2 gigs of data. So the balanced beneficiary and the drive for that data sort of has really been the digital media and entertainment economy. So let's talk about where are we today. So we estimate that a little more than 400 million people in India have, out of 650 million active internet users, are active users of video. And this has been driven first by a category which is music. Music streaming services, of which there are about 7, 8 prominent ones in the market, have roughly about 350 million consumers. And music as a category is very light, because even if you are doing 100 streams or something, you're at best probably consuming maybe 500 MB to 750 MB of data. That became the first base, and on top of that, then video has been riding this entire thing. So today, we believe that almost about 250 million people in India have consumed some form of digital media entertainment content. Their first stance always typically starts from open platforms like YouTube. But as we know, there are probably about 30 different, what we call as OTT services in the market. These are broken up into 4 or 5 different categories. And in recent times, even regional players have been coming into the market. In just the last 2 months, there has been between 30 and 50% jump, Neeraj, in digital media consumption. Obviously, a lot of this has been driven on the fact that in India, we have about 13,500 cinema halls or cinema screens. Those were the first ones to go under lockdown and will probably be the last to be opened. Whilst we have about 900 odd TV channels, about 400 of these are into news, etc. Whereas when you look at the mainstream, what we call as general entertainment channels, they too, given the fact that we are now into almost 2 months of lockdown or lockdown 4.0, they have not been able to refresh their programming because you are not allowed to shoot. And given the formats of television shows, you don't necessarily keep that kind of bank, as it were. All of this has led to massive adoption and discovery and rediscovery of OTT platforms. Also bear in mind that an average Indian household is a single TV household. We have about 190 million households in India where television is there, and the average is about 1.1 or thereabouts. When you're locked in, every screen is coming alive in some form. And this is perhaps the first time we are beginning to see OTT services which are predominantly driven by mobile phones and will perhaps continue to be in India, but they are also making their way into the living room. Driven again, as I mentioned, because of an ability to cast on television or the ability of having smart TVs itself out there. So now let's move to how I see this perhaps the next 2 years. The next 2 years, I believe what the average Indian consumer is going to do is discover a whole range of new content programming, new ways of storytelling. There are typically as many as 20 plus genres of content in most of these platforms. And it's a little bit like, a sort of immersive rabbit hole kind of a approach, because from one thing to the other, because a lot of these use very intelligent AI, machine learning tools. So they are able to put forward recommendations basis your likes. And hence you keep getting deeper and deeper and going into programs which you otherwise wouldn't normally consider. And bear in mind, mainstream TV had just 5, 6 formats itself. So I think, we're going to see a base by 2022, which will go to about 250 million people beginning to now pay for these services, because currently the payment module has been quite limited as such. Now let's take a little sneak peek into what the outlook could be, say, 5 years from now. Here I feel we'll do a little bit of crystal ball gazing for you. I estimate about 600 to 750 million consumers will be paying on an average 75 to 100 rupees of per month, which potentially makes it for between 60 to 90,000 crore market by 2025, or as I said, between 8 to potentially 12 billion US dollars. You will start seeing a scenario for 5 years from now where the player itself becomes almost like a one step to commerce. You're watching something through the device itself is capturing your intent, and you're also able to lead to commerce itself. There will be new forms of storytelling, more immersive forms, because of the massive digitization and comfort that consumers are having in an accelerated growth format. So that will also. And in another 5 years, one of the most fascinating new platforms will be the entire space centered around self-driving cars. I had the privilege, one of our investors is a company, is Intel Capital. And Intel made an investment 2 years ago into a company called Mobileye, which is the large, they have almost 70% market share of the chipsets which are driving all the major automobiles across the world. And earlier this year, I experienced one of these devices, one of these automobiles, an entire entertainment system whereby the windows that you've got or the front screen all converts into a screen itself. And if these cars are self-driven, why does everybody need to be facing in one way? You press the key button, the seats turn, now you're into your own living room scenario of sorts. The car's moving, driven on 32 different sensors, and there's an entertainment ecosystem or anything, your workplace or whatever. But because you're spending 2 to 3 hours into that vehicle is the new platform of sorts which will pan out. And I think, newer formats which will be driven by animation, etc., that we will see. And lastly, I think AI, machine learning is going to play a very, very big role in the way stories are narrated, as it were. So that's really, the little outlook. Another big area which has seen growth has been gaming, and I'll take 30 seconds on that. India, gaming has been a little elusive, but certainly during this lockdown period, you've seen accelerated amount of gaming. Indians are not so much into console gaming as they are into casual gaming, but formats like esports, etc., are now gaining traction. And that again is another 400-500 million consumer market waiting to be made into a multi-billion-dollar business the next 3-4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj. That was amazing. You mentioned 8 to 12 billion dollars market by 2025. That's huge. That's huge. We have tons of questions. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it may seem huge at this point in time, but when you look at the television industry today, the television industry is already a 10-11 billion dollar market. So 5 years from now, when you compare it to just about 75 rupees for an average consumer per month, that's between 900 to 1200 rupees annually. That for 600-700 million people to make that payment is not going to be difficult. And people will end up paying 10 rupees, 20 rupees. They'll be in and out of a bouquet of 3-4 entertainment services, which will make up for those needs.
So I have a couple of questions. So if you could keep your responses, fairly tight and crisp, it will help. So a couple of people have asked your views on AR, VR in home entertainment and digital entertainment. What's your view?
So, see, the key thing you need to understand is with VR, there is an incremental need of a device as well. So, whilst there are technologies which can even take basic content and convert them into VR experiences, the principal technology of Intel, again, one of our partners, has been at the forefront of this. But they did the Olympics, or they were supposed to do the Olympics right now in completely VR experience. So I feel VR as a market is still about 3 years, 4 years out, because we do need the accompanying devices to be cheaper. But early stages of that are already beginning to see signs, and will see so more accelerated in India as well.
Great. What's the future of cloud-based gaming? Gaming industry, a little bit more color, cloud-based, live.
Cloud-based gaming or esports has tremendous future in India. We are already witnessing some form of esports which is happening with uh, you know early stages of the engagement around that. But in international markets, this is, I mean, gaming is a $160 billion market globally, Ninad. In India, it is currently about a 5,000-6,000 crore market, but pegged over the next 4 years to becoming a 24,000 crore market.
So there's a question on what is your view on tier 2 cities, tier 2 and tier 3 cities and the rural market? Is that the place where there's a huge upside?
Absolutely. So there are two big triggers. One is what I term as, going from India to Bharat, the middle India, as it were. And the mobile ecosystem has had a very big role to play in this, because they've democratized data like never before. You have basic speeds of connectivity, which make for casual gaming and services of this nature to be really, really. So what we did 4 years back, I remember, we were encoding our video content into 7 formats, ranging from 180, bitrate streams all the way going to 1024 or whatever. And we would be using adaptive bitrate streaming. We are increasingly finding that now even just 3 formats, because even in middle India, average speeds have improved dramatically.
So Pushkar Shrotri is a leading actor, more, of course, he's acted in Hindi films as well, but in Marathi stage and this. So his question is very simple. What is your view on regional entertainment platforms? Will there be progress? Will this be rise at the same level, higher?
It's a very relevant question, and you look at it like this. See, India is a very unique market. We have 22 major spoken languages. Even if I look at the landscape, you have at least 7 large networks across different, a Tamil market, a Bengali market, etc. And there's uniqueness to cultures, there is uniqueness obviously to language, and there's uniqueness therefore to storytelling. That itself augurs well for more players to emerge. And that's why when people ask me that there are 30 OTT services in India, is it too much? Is it time for consolidation? My answer is there will always be time for consolidation, but don't get overwhelmed by the number of players. Just look at the fact that we have close to 900 odd TV channels. So that should be able to give you a sense. Just the 4 southern languages, account for 38% of the theatrical box office receipts in India. And that's, again, an aspect which has to be borne in mind.
So Biren Ghosh is asking about content requires higher production value, as there's competition around that. Will that lead to bigger move to CG, VFX, all the special effects in short?
So if it is Biren, our good friend Biren Ghosh from Bangalore, first of all, a big shout out to him. Big respect for all the work that he's done. Well, the simple answer is yes. I hope that times like this, where we will have greater difficulty or there will be new norms, even in terms of how production schedules, etc., are undertaken, could potentially lead to new formats in animation, CG, etc., for Indian audiences to embrace and adopt. So that can certainly be a catalyst for growth.
So Nikita Tulsian is asking, buffering and video quality is still an issue, except for large players like Netflix. And what do you think? How will this improve? Or do you think it's going to be there for some more time?
So Nikita, actually, a very interesting way to look at it is, if you see the last 2 months, the entire country has been in lockdown. And despite that, for most people, an ability to communicate, get things going around, etc. And in that sense, I believe the Indian telecom ecosystem has done a tremendous job to manage something like this. It's almost an essential kind of commodity and essential service that is being conducted right now. And therefore, I would say that yes, you will continue to have those aberrations, but by and large, we are finding with each passing month, connectivity is improving.
So some questions are in terms of live shows and shooting, and so is this the end of live shows, or you think they'll come back after some time,
No,
or is it the mix of the two?
I think humans are social beings. Ninad, I'm the last one to be writing off epitaphs of such mainstream. I mean, cinema, 100 years, of live entertainment, etc. No, they will definitely come back, and we wish they come back sooner than later. But in the interim, there is certainly a massive discovery of live streaming that's happening. Discovery which could be as basic as, artists performing from their own living rooms, reaching out to fans, to now potentially even getting into formats. Because for the next foreseeable future, at least for the next 6 to 12 months, public events, occasions, weddings will be far and few between. I mean, they will be there, but you can't have that kind of attendance. But can you do things on live formats? Yes. We ourselves as a company have in the last, I think, 40 days done 68 music concerts live performances, which we've done matching the artists with their fans.
So there's a question from Siddharth Mishra, little controversial things happening, which is PVR and Inox are reacting fairly aggressively towards Bollywood's plan to go on OTT platforms for release. What do you think will eventually emerge?
I think, see, internationally there were certain formats, and in India also, without a doubt, the theatrical exhibition business accounts for comfortably about 60% of the revenue of a major film. Another about, 25-30% could be contributed by way of the broadcast business going to television. The balance used to come out of digital. I think, they need to understand that those producers who have had their funds invested, they need to explore ways. And this is certainly impacting both the broadcast business as well as the exhibition business. But I believe it is temporary. As things do come back into some kind of, normal, or the new normal as we all have gotten used to, we believe that, there will be, that equation will come back, but may not remain the same. Meaning digital will certainly get some upper hand in the way process, but will not be able to sort of supersede that entire revenues which come from theater.
So I'll take one last question. There are tons of questions. One last question from the audience, and then I can't let you go, Neeraj, without asking a question. Uday Chitra is asking, in the rural environment in India, there are inflatable cinema theaters, and all those kind of new models are emerging. Will they coexist with the digital model?
So, see, as we all know, Ninad, I don't think in 8-10 generations, people have seen this and are likely to see what we are undergoing right now. So, at the moment, it's not likely that you're going to sit for 3 hours next to a stranger eating popcorn in a closed theatrical cinema chain. So they also need to make changes, but how do they make changes? Because you can't just increase tariffs, and if that doesn't happen, the economics of a film don't pan out in a certain way. But my point is that experiences which are about social, which are about real world experiences, they're not going back. They're not going away. I think there's a temporary pause. That is what, one will look at. But during this period, naturally, anything digital, leave aside entertainment, I mean, banking and digital, there's a massive adoption. Every format of shopping, there is a massive more adoption that's happening. That certainly will be accelerated. Like somebody said, I think, we have accelerated digital adoption by 2-3 years in just a matter of a couple of months. I think it was Satya Nadella.
Sure. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, then we'll wind it down. The last one is a little personal, but before that, you're familiar with 100x model of funding early stage startups. Do you think it's a good model for digital entertainment industry?
Oh, absolutely. I think I just gave, an idea itself. I mean, we're looking at what can we do with streaming, but it can't just be basic streaming. What's middleware that can be brought in, which perhaps makes experiences a little closer to what it is in the physical world. So big opportunity centered around this whole space of digital media and entertainment, which includes gaming. And I think I would encourage wholeheartedly whole host of budding entrepreneurs to explore opportunities in that area.
Sure. So I will ask you a last personal question, but there's a fan moment for you. I put it on the screen. The Sarun Lala is saying, Neeraj is amazing. I can listen to him entire day. So there's a fan moment for some big fans here.
Thank
But
you.
one
Thank you very much, Karpe.
last personal question. You have been under lockdown for last 2 months, 2.5 months, and I'm sure you're spending a lot more time with your pet dog, whom we just saw, and your family. Uh, is there a movie or web series which you particularly liked and would like to share? Just as an example,
Yes, sure.
the global CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, actually recommended Ye Ballet, which is an Indian movie. Do you have any recommendation for your viewers?
So
Anything you've seen?
I actually caught up with one of our own shows on Hungama Play, which is Damaged 2. It's a crime drama. The show was released about 4 months back, but I hadn't been able to see it. It's a fabulous show. Would highly encourage it. But I also I'm a fan of the Fauda series, the Israeli show on Netflix. And the season 3 came out recently, which I love. I also ended up seeing, the show called Special Ops on Disney Plus Hotstar. A great show, highly recommended.
Okay, great. On that note, we will bring this 20 minutes live to an end. You covered a lot of ground, Neeraj. You spoke about the changes which are presently happening. You went forward 2 years, 5 years. Any last one-line closing comment before I wind down the show?
Just stay safe and healthy, guys, and stay positive. We're going to get over this.
Thank you, Neeraj. We are delighted you could come today on 20 Minutes Live and share your thoughts with all of us. You have shared some amazing insights in a very short span of 20 minutes. I hope to see you again on our show. And for our viewers, remember, every Thursday, 5 p.m., 20 Minutes Live. Thank you, Neeraj.
Thanks, Neeraj. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.